To start our session, I would like to invite Nala Amira, founder and of Green Welfare Indonesia, who will moderate the discussion. Please welcome Nara Amira.
Nala Amira, and I'm honored to be your moderator for our final session of today. I hope everyone is still energized, as our session will be the most crowded number of speakers today, as you can see. So throughout this conference, we've had many important discussions on the issues facing our region. We've talked about good governance, we've talked about climate action, the future of work, and the rule of law. But this final session is a little different. We're going to zoom out from the specific problems we face and really talk about the very soul of our community. The question we're talking today is more foundational. We're talking about the regional people-to-people and cultural connection of over 650 million ASEANs across 10 unique countries. Now, officially, there is a narrative of the ASEAN identity endorsed in 2020, where our leaders aimed to create a stronger sense of regional belonging and solidarity. But as we know, the reality on the ground is different. And there's a gap that we need to bridge today. And so the real question that we're going to discuss today is, what does this ASEAN identity truly mean? How do we make it from a concept discussed in meeting rooms and make it a real feeling, a connection, or a vibe that really resonates in our streets, our schools, and our homes? And that brings us to what I promise will be a very fascinating discussion today. And over the next 60 minutes, we will explore practical ideas to transform our ASEAN identity from a high-level aspiration into a lived reality for the people of Southeast Asia. And without further ado, to explore this, we have brought together a truly exceptional panel of leaders, thinkers, and builders from across the region. And it is with my great pleasure to invite them to the stage now. Please join me in giving a warm round of applause as I invite our speakers. First, let's invite our regional voice in regional journalism, the senior editor at the Jakarta Post, Mr. Andy Bayuni from Indonesia. With over 4 decades of experience, Mr. Bayuni is a 2-time former editor-in-chief of the Post and now writes influential commentaries on Indonesia's democracy, political Islam, and international relations. He also serves on the inaugural Independent Oversight Board of MEDA and is a former Nieman Fellow at Harvard University. Joining him, the former executive director of the ASEAN Foundation. Please welcome Mr. Apichai Sunchinda from Thailand. Mr. Sunchinda has been a development specialist for over 4 decades, with a significant part of his career dedicated to the ASEAN Secretariat and the ASEAN Foundation right here in Jakarta. He is an expert in environment and natural resource management and a keen observer of developments across the Mekong and Southeast Asia regions. Next, from Malaysia, the senior political secretary to the Prime Minister of Malaysia, please welcome Datuk Seri Haji Shamsul Iskandar bin Haji Muhammad Akin. A lawyer by training, Datuk Seri is actively engaged in shaping Malaysia's political strategy and its international relations. He also serves as the chairman of the People's Justice Party's International Bureau and plays a key role within both the government and party framework. And finally, the founder of the ASEAN Network, please welcome Mr. Ngo Ravindra from Cambodia. Mr. Ravindra founded the ASEAN Network to connect over 550 leaders across Asia, bringing together diplomats, experts, and young leaders to tackle global challenges. Through high-level conferences, his work advances key UN Sustainable Development Goals and is also a member of the World Economic Forum ASEAN Expert Network. Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you all today? Are we excited for the discussion? Or debate, really? I heard over there we were discussing if this should be a discussion or an actual debate from panelist to panelist. So again, once again, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here with us today. Mr. Sandiaga Uno will be joining us a little bit later, but we will move on with our discussion first. And we do have a fantastic range of expertise on the stage, and we're very excited to hear from everyone. So just starting and kicking off directly, just with something light, I actually want to ask through our panelists, first with Mr. Apichai, just from the introduction that I gave, you've seen the ASEAN concept from the inside out of the ASEAN Foundation. And for many, the identity of ASEAN remains very abstract for a lot of people. And so there's a gap where the general public have limited awareness of ASEAN. Is ASEAN just an institution? Is it What are the practical benefits? Is it just a framework? So, Mr. Apichai, I would like to ask, how do we stop ASEAN identity from just being a buzzword? What are the real concrete values and definitions we're talking about?
Can you hear me? Is it good? No? Ah. Oh, no, okay. No. Yeah, thank you very much, Nala, and good afternoon. Let's put it this way. ASEAN identity, well, first of all, ASEAN is 58 years old this year. But the, what do you say, the history of the ASEAN has basically been like a political, construct. The way it was formed was due to political development consultations in Southeast Asia at that time. 5 countries, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand. But today is quite a different world, different region, right? As many of you will know. I don't need to go into details. But the ASEAN identity, I think seriously, maybe this is the sort of the missing element in the ASEAN's sort of development. It has not received as much attention and focus like the other things, like the political security issue, South China Sea issue. People tend to know these things more than what ASEAN identity is. Although ASEAN identity, as you can imagine, is very important. It is something that we should bind and should hold us together as a community. But then ASEAN, of course, trying to catch up in 2020. They come up, this from the ASEAN community side, the narrative for ASEAN identity. So what is ASEAN identity? First of all, you have to have a definition, right? So the official ASEAN definition is that it is something that is both inherited values and constructed values. In other words, inherited values meaning like, Southeast Asia has a much longer history than ASEAN, right? It goes back thousands of years or even centuries and things like that. So that has existed a longer time. But the ASEAN being an artificially constructed identity sort of tries to overarches it, but also finds difficulty in taking root, okay? Simple example, I have, Thailand will be hosting SEA Games in December, all right? I think many of you who are sports will follow, And then I have, recently I saw a poster that they are putting up signs about promotion of the SEA Games, which says that they are welcoming ASEAN athletes to the next SEA Games. Now, isn't that funny? You have 2 words, ASEAN and SEA, SEA meaning Southeast Asia. So they don't call it SEA athletes. I don't think that seems to click, right? We never hear SEA Games athletes calling SEA athletes. So they have to use a sort of approximate. So, okay, ASEAN, ASEAN. So ASEAN makes sense because ASEAN, the middle ASEAN is Southeast Asia or something like that, Okay, so they do go on a sort of a hybrid kind of definition, But then that raises the question, why can't they, and then there are also efforts to try to change SEA Games to ASEAN Games, all right? Why not? I think the founder of AFPC is a proponent of that. But then a lot of people also have different views. They said it's not catchy. SEA Games is already an established brand, for example. Why you want to change it? You change, people get confused. Is it 2 types of games or just 1 game? So anyway, so that presents a problem, okay? Because again, this inherited, constructed, value system. SEA Games have a longer history than ASEAN, so therefore they get more established, more well-known, and for maybe just inherently. But then ASEAN comes later and find difficulty on how to sort of associate itself with SEA Games, okay? So that is, I think, the crux of the matter. And the thing is that also ASEAN has not been able to demonstrate its real relevance and impact to the Southeast Asian people. whereas SEA Games can, right? It's very visual, very impactful. Everybody participate. Yeah. ASEAN, okay, we also have the 10 flag or 11 flags, but then somehow it's just to the elite, basically, and I think that's the major problem. Okay.
Thank you so much, Mr. Apichai. So really, yes, I think I also agree that some way around the line that ASEAN is sometimes more symbolic rather than something that can actually be felt from people to people. So I think moving on, just as we talk about how sometimes programs are something that can really touch the people, I'd like to ask Dr. Seri, especially from the policy side, ASEAN identity has yet to resonate broadly with citizens, as we agreed early on. So what are some of the most effective strategies to translate these concepts into tangible policies, programs, and cultural practices that people can directly experience themselves?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Thank you, Madam Moderator, and thank you, my distinguished colleague as members of the panel. I want to add a bit on what Bapak Apichai has mentioned. Yeah. Well, when you talk about identity, I remember a news report. I think maybe early September, 1st September 2025, where you guys have a very big demonstration in Jakarta. Ya, ada yang terlibat? Enggak. So, ya enggak apa-apa, tak ada polis, tidak ada polisi. You know what happened? I was with Ibu Yeni in Osaka during that time. So we've been following the updates. But the one that really resonated, the thinking of ASEAN togetherness, I would say ASEAN identity, is when our friends from ASEAN, our Grab people from, our community, our Malaysians, Thailands, and maybe other citizens of ASEAN, they supported the demonstration when they ordered some foods, refreshments to all our friends here in Indonesia. You see, and it was everywhere in the social media that we are together to support the anti-corruption drive here in Indonesia. So I think I want to begin there as a framing. Yeah, what will be the future outlook for the younger communities? I would say in this region. We can discuss a lot of things here. We can talk about the communique. We can talk about ASEAN Vision 2045. Yeah, it's about 20 years from now. All of us might not be alive to witness that 2045, but our friends here can understand and can work on the tangible program in the next 20 years. So let's put ASEAN as a metaphor, as a house. Yeah. And this is our house. This region is our house. Yes, Bapak Apichai mentioned about political security, economic pillars, and all that, because we want to make sure ASEAN house in order. For example, if I would like to frame that ASEAN house here, we can have a roof. Yeah, in house we need to have roof to protect and to sustain protection and sustainability. That's the idea of having the roof of the house. And of course, there are rooms. In the house, there must be rooms. Yeah. So we talk about diversity and respect. Jadi justru tidak perlu gaduh lah lagu makan mana yang sedap, batik mana yang bagus. Yeah. Because we have rooms. Yeah. Maybe our friends from Indonesia, because of the population, they enjoy the living room, the main room, the master bedroom. Maybe Malaysia and Cambodia, we go for a second room or third room. Yeah. But rooms in the same house. We talk about diversity. And of course, we must have walls in that particular house. That walls will operate as care and compassion. Yeah? It's like muafakat, it's like togetherness and gotong royong. Yeah? And of course, when you talk about walls, we also need to talk about the foundation. The foundation of the house is the trust. You see? That's why we have this communique, we have this plan, Vision 25 and all that, because we want to monitor tangibly this is the way forward, and we must have trust into the way forward that has been discovered by our leaders. And of course, we need to have garden. Yeah. Well, it is pretty good to have house with garden. Yeah. My house in Kuala Lumpur, we don't have garden because we stay in an apartment. Yeah. We cannot afford to buy a bigger house. Yeah. But with garden, we talk about youth, innovation, prosperity. Yeah. So if I put that as a metaphor, Madam Moderator, then we can simply outline what will be the tangible programs that we need to organize. I always believe, we need to have an idea or an effort to organize program with a low cost, but with a high impact. Yesterday I was visiting the booth. I think the name of the booth is Indonesia Relawan, I think. I remember I asked, Indo Relawan, yeah? I asked what's the difference Indo Relawan and Jokowi Relawan. I only know Jokowi Relawan, yeah? I'm sorry for that, yeah. So, the guy was explaining to me, this is the tangible program that we can organize, yeah? We have Indo Relawan here, and can channel programs and activities on the ground. We can have participations from Singapore, from Cambodia, from Malaysia, particularly the youth, and channel them towards tangible programs using our house, our Madani house, or our ASEAN house. Thank you very much.
Amazing. That was an amazing answer, Dato. So yes, I think it's very important that we touched on how these day-to-day culture experience that we can feel across borders, and just sort of how we can translate our country's cultures to other countries' cultures around ASEAN is one of the ways in how these day-to-day programs can really unite us even more. And so just staying on that, and this is more on the grassroots level, Mr. Ravindra, moving on from Mr. Apichai and Dato, what are some of the cultural and social barriers that prevent ASEAN identity from taking root at the grassroots? We've talked about the definition, we've talked about how we can implement it, but what's really going on in the grassroots? So we'd also like to ask, is it maybe because of the weak institutions? Is it the lack of visibility? Is it because we're competing against each other, country to country? Or is it simply limited relevance to daily concerns? And how can we also address these?
Yeah, so thank you for your question, very challenging question, and very happy to see many participants, and very happy to contribute with my such distinguished panelists. And also thanks FPCI for organizing this such significant and timely event. So I will try to be brief and concise, because this is the end of a 2-day very long event. So I'm sure that everyone is exhausted. So I will mainly give 3 key ideas to summarize my speech. And also forgive me if I have a French accent, because I born in the south of France, so it's not a joke. I really have a French accent. So first, I will say, and Apichai really already mentioned this issue, this main challenge. Number one is visibility and communication gap. People perception from ASEAN is elitist and also bureaucratic, I think, institutions. So how can we bridge with people perception? I think number one is perhaps to implement some educational programs, historical backgrounds and values to universities, schools, because we understand that demographics of ASEAN, half of the population of ASEAN is under 25 years old. So it's very, I think, easy to reach that demographics, and from the roots, so very early age, schools, universities. So this is something I think very important to mention. And also using about that young tech-savvy generation, we should leverage this communication throughout different social medias, Instagram, TikTok, and also I think this is very trendy with social influencers. Now everyone's speaking about millions of followers, multi-million of followers. I think Santiago Uno might come or not. He have also a very strong, I think have 25 million followers on Instagram. So he's a great ambassador of ASEAN. So this is my first point. Then I think that also the second key challenge that in my perception is, as you mentioned in your question, competing nationalism over regionalism. I think that everyone here in the room will fight for his country. Whatever you're Thai, whatever you're Malaysian, whatever you're Cambodian and Indonesian, that's a natural process. But let me ask you this question. If you do a DNA test, who from the second generation will be 100% Malaysian, will be 100% Cambodian, will be 100% Indonesian? I think no one in this room. So please, we need to understand historical background, our ancestor, our heritage, to emphasize our regionalism, I think, mindset. Because this is very important nowadays. Very important because we can see rising conflicts from all over the world. I'm coming from Europe. You have the the Ukraine and Russian conflict, then Middle East, and even now in Southeast Asia, of course, domestic conflict, national conflict with Myanmar, recently with the border of Thailand and Cambodia. So I think understanding our heritage might prevent those conflicts, violence, and also hatred between neighbors, first things. Second, I think that regional events, such as this one, such as you mentioned the Southeast Asian game, but we have so many others, industry and sectors. Sports is one of them, but we have also food. We have also cultural event, and I think ASEAN Foundation is a very good institution to promote this value. But we have also so many other sectors that may have promote regionalism in that matter, because ASEAN in a whole, it's very such an example. When I give some conferences in Europe, in France, and they're asking me best practice about European Union, what can we implement in European Union? I say, look at what ASEAN do. They are very efficient, diverse in a whole, but very unified. So take example of ASEAN. And finally, my third point, diversity could be opportunities, but also it could be a challenge, because we need to really communicate the ASEAN identity to different, I think, nationalities, different religions, different type of leadership. So this could be also a challenge in looking at the diversity of ASEAN in a whole. And now we have 11 countries in October with Timor-Leste who's joining us. So I think this is something that we really need to be aware. And last, I think we need to collectively tackle global challenges, because I think climate change, we see recently with the earthquake in Cebu, typhoon in Philippines, and also all the cyber scam in Southeast Asia, who is not giving us a good reputation globally. That's something we need in a harmonious and collective approach to tackle those global challenges. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mr. Ravindra. So I think we talked a lot also about how diverse ASEAN is, which means that when there's diversity, we need to also be inclusive. So not just only talking about the top elites, but also looking from the bottom-up perspective. So this really connects to my next question, Mr. Andy. Who are we building this identity for? As a veteran journalist and a public thought leader, you've thought deeply about narratives and inclusion. But how do we ensure that this ASEAN story genuinely includes everyone? And I mean rural communities, minorities, indigenous groups, so we can avoid it being another, again, elite-driven narrative. What are the specific roles, especially for media and civil society, if you have?
Hello? Okay. Yeah, the question of identity is closely related to the idea of building an ASEAN community. And to be frank, we are still far from being a community. And I think building that identity in ASEAN identity, I think can help drive the process towards a real community. I remember there was a lot of excitement before 2015 for the launching of the ASEAN community. And then it was launched, and then nothing happened. And there was another vision statement, ASEAN 2025. And then 2025 came, and then we kicked it down for the 2045. It's a long way, it's a process. And part of the process is actually building that identity. And the challenge, as I think the previous speakers already mentioned, is that the name itself, ASEAN, is not familiar to the majority of the people. Of course, in this room, everybody's familiar with ASEAN, but ordinary people, they see they have not had any impact. ASEAN has not had impact on their lives. It has, but they just don't know, right? You talk to diplomats, they say, well, ASEAN has been the key factor why this region has been peaceful and stable. And that's very important. And this is why we become prosperous, because we had ASEAN, our leaders getting together and talk about peace and stability and working on that. Now we are moving to the next level. We want to build an ASEAN community. We already declared it, and now we say 2045, and we're trying to build that identity. The question is, identity is going to be problematic. It's important, but I think it's problematic because it's diverse, and it's going to be very difficult to actually pin down and write down. These are the ASEAN identities. But it's something that should evolve naturally. And thank you to the ASEAN governments for making this visa-free travel within the region. There has been more people traveling, interacting, working together, and I think that helps. But I think we're still a long way, because we still have not, ASEAN has still not touched the majority of the people. Building that identity, I think, can help to speed up the process. The AFPC founder mentioned changing SEA Games to Asian Games. That helps. There are also, we can also have more ASEAN events, ASEAN fashion shows, ASEAN culinary festival, all kinds of anything with the name ASEAN. I think helps to create the brand. Yeah? We talk about brand, we talk about marketing. Brand, I think the more we use that phrase, the more people are starting to understand what is ASEAN and what is ASEAN identity. I mean, Europe has the Eurovision Song Festival every year and rotating. We should do the same, right? Rotating between, doesn't have to be in capital cities, but can be anywhere in the cities in ASEAN. Culinary festival, and then besides events that are, these events have to be frequent, maybe annually, and then has to be possible, if it's possible, rotating between the different cities. And then there has to be, we talk about brand again, and there has to be a promotion. This is where the media comes in. Media also has to help promote the brand. We also need more pan-ASEAN organizations. Not the ones that are actually set up by the government, but actually should be from the grassroots. I was a member of the board of Southeast Asia Press Alliance. Now it's closed, unfortunately. But the idea was there for Southeast Asian journalists get together and fight their common cause. That means press freedom, free speech in general, and also improving the capacity of journalists, and of course the welfare of journalists. That kind of ideas, I think, can also help promote the idea of ASEAN identity. So we need CSOs that has ASEAN in its name. I know it's difficult because each NGOs, they work in their own region, in their own countries. But there are areas, climate change, human rights, anti-corruption, many areas that we can actually explore, starting maybe first with joint programs, but further down the road, maybe actually set up an organization with ASEAN on its name. So the environment is already there. I mean, we are allowed to, there's free travel within ASEAN, so we can travel to any part of ASEAN countries without visa. There are already some freedom of labor movement, limited to some professions that could be expanded, meaning that any Indonesians can work anywhere else in ASEAN. Similarly, they can come and work here. We are seeing, I think the business community is leading in this area because they have facilities, tax breaks and everything, and there are Indonesian companies operating in other Asian countries, and similarly other ASEAN countries working in Indonesia. I was with this FPCI event just 2 weeks ago on the 75th anniversary of Indonesian-Thailand relations, and I was surprised to meet some Thai business people who actually have business here. So there are Indonesians actually working for Thai companies. So that this is getting to know your neighbors, and there are also Indonesians working for Singapore companies, Malaysian companies, Philippine companies, and similarly there are expat communities from Thailand, here, Malaysia, Singapore, the Philippines. Those are the people who actually are on the front lines, right, and helping to build this community and helping to build this identity. So I think the point is that the initiatives has to come from us, from the people. The government has already provided some of the facilities, but I think if you want to talk about building identity and branding ASEAN, it's really now down to the people and the NGOs and CSOs as well.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Andy. I think it's very interesting that we also talked about promotion and also understanding and actually promoting ASEAN. I'm curious if everyone here knows what ASEAN actually stands for, the full acronym for ASEAN. I'm sure all of our panelists do, right? Does someone not know? Okay, so let's assume that everyone knows what ASEAN is. And so I think I just want to ask one closing question to all of you, because I think one thing that you all mentioned is about the next generation, the young people. So thinking about the next generation, and all of us right here is also included in the next generation, they're all online, as you mentioned earlier. We talked about digital promotion, but even though they are all digitally connected, sometimes we might know or even care about ASEAN's formal structure. Even though we come across ASEAN, for example, sometimes not everyone is prone to actually learn and understand further about what ASEAN is. So what would be the secret to getting them genuinely excited? Maybe are there specific projects in arts, online, or again, like what Datu said, volunteering, that could make them feel a real sense of regional solidarity? Does anyone want to go first? Okay, Datu will go first.
Yeah, let me begin. I think I'm the youngest in this group. Well, yeah, they're all wiser than me. It's all right. There's a latest book written by Pak Gita, his former minister, What It Takes. Yeah? And he basically explains on Southeast Asia, what it takes. Yeah? It's moving forward. I would say that's a very interesting book. You see, I just want to quote what he wrote in the book. From his perspective, ASEAN has first population, diversity, and hence economic scale. We're talking about what, 700 million population? Half of it from Indonesia. Yeah? but lacks narrative infrastructure. I think that's an important point that we can explore. What does it mean by narrative infrastructure? We have a lot of influencers here, I mean, across the region, yeah, particularly Indonesia. Pak mentioned about, influencers with millions of followers. I don't enjoy that, I only enjoy it when I do something interesting that people attack me in the TikTok. But let me go straight to the point. Based on this strength, we can empower, for example, the youth creators and the community media to tell ASEAN stories. Yeah, these are the things that we can do together. I know I have a very short time, but I think there are three important things that I want to convey to answer Ibu Nala's question. When you talk about ASEAN identity and ASEAN vibes, there are three things. Pertama, mudah, ya, easy. So we can travel easy. I took the taxi just now. I just pay using the QR, touch and go. That's my first time using that. I'm so surprised. Yeah, so it's very easy. Yeah, and travel, like Pak mentioned, no visa. Second is the cut. Yeah, it must be close. Yeah, language, music, culture, foods, etc. And finally, is manfaat. What do we get from this powerful region together? I mentioned just now, very classic example of the demonstration, but there are so many other things will happen in the future. With that, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dato. Maybe we can open one more answer from a panelist. Yes, Mr.
I'm the
Abindra, go
second
ahead.
youngest panelist, so should I go? Just kidding. So yeah, just perhaps to how to answer your question is how engaging youth from ASEAN. So let me give perhaps three examples, and two have been successfully implemented on this 2 days conference. The first one is gamification. So just few hours before, I'm not sure if you was at the Golden Ballroom, we have a game asking some question about what is ASEAN, ASEAN identity, ASEAN values, ASEAN principles, what are the countries inside of ASEAN. So gamification could be an example to engage young people. Second, this morning, I didn't wake up, it was at 6:30, there is an ASEAN walk. So exercising is very important. Physical activities is important because I think whoever you are, from Malaysia, Indonesia, I think this is a very good common vision that can engage young people. So this is a number two action. And last, I think speaking more about leadership, because this generation will be the next generation, will be the change makers. So they need to really identify to the current leaders. So influencers are good, but if they spread a message of peace, if they spread a positive message, that's constructive. So they should do some leadership workshop, leadership training with that kind of positive influential leaders, and also at the government level. So this is something I was thinking of. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abindra. Let's give a round of applause for our panelists. I do very agree, especially when you said about taking something that's trending, perhaps, that within young people and make that as a gateway to promoting ASEAN. Especially when we're talking about sports, I think everyone here, running has become something very famous in Indonesia, apparently, and I think everyone else. So maybe we can start an ASEAN marathon somewhere. So I think moving on, before we open the floor for questions, I'd first like to invite our respondents and our discussants. I would like to invite our representatives from NGO Forum Cambodia to first offer their interventions. As a reminder, you have 2 minutes for your comment or question. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause for our panelists today.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to share my idea on this session. And also saying to the organizer that touching on this topic, it really is interesting, as Professor mentioned. So in terms of Asian identity, it's very interesting topic, even though Asian have been established almost 50 years ago. But in terms of identity, it's not really a prioritization. But now we're touching on this issue. But at this stage, we are not only touching at a micro level, but we also thought, even though we just start, but we also thought how we touching our identity fiber, especially connecting to the grassroots level. So it very ambitious ideas that we could start on the grassroots level. And I hope that we is not, what I learned from the other session, they mentioned that we are not just talk and talk, but we walk the talk. So from what we are learning, what we are discussing, from what we are planning. So we need to turn into the real practice how to we create our Asian identity. I think that identity is really important for all the nation and for all the country. But how to we promote our identities for the Asian country? I think that identity is very important for the unities as well as for solidarity and for our connectivity. So if we can better promote our identity, so everyone will be understand and knows what Asian is. But in terms of identity, I think that we can commonly we think we talk about what we do has in similarity in terms of Asian nation, as well as what we do diversity. So I think that coming to diversity also an important element in terms of promotion to Asian identities. So the other in terms of diversity, but we also similarity in those elements as well. For instance, we also challenge in terms of climate change, as well as youth resilient to climate change, as well as we also talked the other yesterday sessions about migration. So it's also a key challenge for ASEAN. So I think that in terms of promotional, as our speaker mentioned about branding and promotional, so what do we should promote or share to the public? So I think that we not only share our good things and what we do have common, but we also think about our challenge as a promotional or a special tool to identify as an identity. For instance, so every nation in ASEAN, so they also facing in terms of climate change or youth resilient to climate change. But this is also our specialty as well in ASEAN. So everyone also work hard to fighting for climate change. So everyone also contested for the conservation and the protection of the environment in the areas. So the other aspect as well in terms of migration. So it's also a challenge from one country to the other country, especially for the low developed country like Cambodia or Laos or mid Thailand also we have cross migration areas. So I think that this also diversification in terms of a country, but this is also a good thing for promoting our challenge. But how could we turn those challenge into opportunity for the Asian? Like, oh, we are Asian, so we surviving, especially for the low country. So they surviving their own nation from sharing our labor work, but they are a strong nation that they try to survive themselves from cross-border working with the Asian nation itself. So they are strong people who fighting their livelihood through different ways, like especially through working among their membership or among the nation. So this is the thing that I want to raise. It could be constructed into the identity for the nation. And the other two aspects as mentioned from other speakers, so he also mentioned about branding promotion. So I think that in terms of localization of ASEAN into the local context of the grassroots also important. It's like especially to the local community or to the grassroots organization. And the other thing is like mobilizing the people to focus or to mention or to talk about ASEAN so they would learn and understand from this aspect. Thank you.
Thank you so much to NGO Forum Cambodia. With that remark before we move on, we'd first like to finally welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Sandiaga Uno, the Minister of Tourism from 2020 and 2024. Maybe before we move on to responding to this discussion, I just want to ask a brief question to Pak Sandiaga first. We've talked a lot about ASEAN identity previously. We talked about the definition. We've talked about what programs we can do to make sure that ASEAN is promoted even further. And we also talked about the diversity and inclusion within ASEAN. And just responding back to the intervention from NGO Cambodia, I'd like to ask specifically on the similarities and the challenges and the opportunities. As we know that across the ASEAN, we have different socio-economic backgrounds. And within each country, we also have different political situations, different cultural experiences, different, again, social economic levels in each country. Not everyone in ASEAN is a developed country. And so how do we sort of unify everyone to work and collaborate even stronger between the ASEAN countries?
Thank you. First of all, distinguished panelists, I am I know it's unacceptable to use traffic as for Sundays, but it is real fact that I got stuck for 2 hours in traffic. And no thanks to AI, because we follow AI. We asked ChatGPT where to go from Pasar Baru to here, and true enough, because of the big celebrations in Monas, AI directed us to the center of traffic jam. But thankfully, I made it towards the end, and I want to start with one of the ASEAN identity that is shared between at least Malaysia and Indonesia as the intangible cultural heritage. We share batik, but we also share pantun. So pantun in 2020 has been recognized by UNESCO as the intangible cultural heritage that is shared between Indonesia and Malaysia, Brunei and Singapore, and also southern Thailand. So I'll start with a pantun. Pergi ke pasar beli ketupat. See, this is ASEAN identity. Pergi ke pasar beli ketupat. Ketupat enak dimakan bersama. ASEAN identity jangan hanya sebagai penghangat, harus hadir nyata untuk masa depan kita semua. So,
Boleh saya jawab, Pak?
Boleh, bangga.
Boleh saya jawab?
Silakan.
Arak-arak kelapa mayang.
Cakep.
Tidak mayang kelapa Bali.
Cakep.
Kalau tidak kerana kasih dan sayang,
Cakep.
tidak kami datang kemari.
Hey! So we need, that's a project between Indonesia and Malaysia, which in the past, unfortunately or fortunately, as the case may be, we fought for all this cultural identity. No, this belongs to Indonesia. No, this belongs to Malaysia. Blah, blah, blah. But now, I think in the era of collaborations, Pak, I think we need to look at one cultural identity that is shared among all ASEAN countries. Setuju nggak? So, and then we did kebaya. I think kebaya was, oh, you have to see that some fierce emak-emak came to my office saying that cannot be, kebaya belongs to Indonesia. Because we lost on Songket, right? Because you didn't ask us on Songket. You went ahead by yourself. But Kabaya said that why? If we do it on ourselves, it will take years to be recognized. But if we do it together, 1 year, Indonesia, Singapore, Brunei, Malaysia, and part of Thailand, I think Thailand too, is the entire ASEAN, recognize that kebaya is our intangible cultural heritage. And Pak Ravindra, probably the same in Cambodia too. We could look for some identity that we could share together. So maybe I'll stop there. And for somebody who came late, I should keep quiet.
We actually had 3 questions waiting for you, Pak.
Huh?
We had 3 questions waiting for you.
I thought it's already towards the end. But anyway.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause for Pa Sandiaga Uno. So, as we are closing up the panel, we'd like to ask the questions from the floor first, and maybe perhaps later on, if we have time, we can have questions from panelist to panelist. And so, if anyone would like to ask a question, please raise your hand. Please state your name, your institution or country, and your question and who your question is directed towards to. Okay, we have one here at the back, the gentleman in the back, and the lady in the front. Okay, yeah. Let's go with the, yeah.
Hello, panelists. Thank you for the very insightful content. I think to introduce myself, I'm Shion. I actually run a non-profit called the Young Seekers, which is a youth-led non-profit dedicated to, cultivate a community of regionally minded and impact-driven young leaders across the region, basically across ASEAN. So we do a lot of like overseas learning journey, dialogues, networking opportunities that, equip the youth with the skills, network, as well as knowledge to navigate this interconnected region. So we have been, we have been around for 5 years, and we have been trying to build this shared ASEAN community and our identity from ground up. So, but to be honest, sustaining this kind of cross-border collaboration through programs is a little bit challenging, be it like funding or like, and most of the support structure are more national instead of regional. So basically, like, funding from our government, I only want to serve Singaporeans. I'm from Singapore, something like that. So my question is actually, from your perspective, what are the, existing or potential ASEAN level support to help organizations like me, like the Young Seekers, to grow our efforts sustainably across the region? And another one is, what can us, like ground up, do a little bit more better in strengthening this kind of sense of ASEAN identity beyond just, one-off program that we are currently organizing? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Would any of our panelists like to go first? Okay, Mr. Andy, head.
Thank you for that question. I'm also involved with several NGOs, and finding money is difficult. But I can relate to my experience with the Southeast Asia Press Alliance, which ceased to operate now. But I remember when I was on the board, and when we were approached funding agencies, they liked the idea of regional rather than national programs, because with one funding to one organization, but it actually spread to several countries in the region. So the idea is there. I mean, I think donor agencies, whether it's from the West or from here, they have the money. They are looking for great programs. The challenge is for you to come up with the program, the proposals that works or brings benefits across the region, not just one country. I think if it's just one country, they say okay, but if it's 2, 3, or 4 countries, or even just like throughout the ASEAN, I think that they like it. The challenge is really for you to come up with the proposal that is attractive and actually makes a big impact. You can do it, because I know from the experience of the Southeast Asia Press Alliance, we found that many of the donor agencies like that idea. Now I'm talking about donor agencies in the West in the past, but I think there are now philanthropists in our region, in the Middle East, in East Asia, that are also interested in channeling money to NGOs in the region.
Thank you so much, Pa Andy. Would any of the other panelists like to add on? All right. So maybe we can move on to the next question from the gentleman in the back earlier. If you could raise your hand again. Thank you. Please state your name, your institution, and your question and who it's directed for.
First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Briandana. I'm from Universitas Pajajaran in Bandung. My question is not actually directed to a specific panelist, but I would really like to argue that perhaps the lack of progress, I may say, of the construction of the ASEAN identity is due to the I think the lack of power of the ASEAN as an institution itself. So I would like to ask any panelists if you want to give your perspective on how institution is actually play a very important part. And for me, when the actual connection of the people to people itself is not yet uh, not yet strong or still weak, I think the bottom up is not quite a really an effective way to build a national identity. But actually, if as an institution to work actually with people from the bottom is actually for you can say it's a top to bottom approach. I think it's a very more effective to build an ASEAN identity. So I would like to hear from any panelists who'd like to respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So yes, Mr. Pichai, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we can use the example between Malaysia and Indonesia just now. Okay, two ASEAN member states decide to do this tango or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but don't get entangled. That's what you need to avoid. So sometimes it's hard to find 10 countries and soon to be 11 something common to all. You know what I mean? Whether it's language or culture or food. Okay, there are some that goes a little bit more encompassing, but some are less. All right. So if you go for the maximum, which is a little bit idealistic, okay, and that's why I think it's a difficulty for identity things to come out very well. But some have breakthroughs. But I thought maybe if you can't do it too big, and I think too overreaching, then start small. Yeah, 2, 3, 4 or 5 even, like, for example, in mainland Southeast Asia, we share the Mekong, yeah? So that can be a binding force. Of course, that could be a divisive force, yeah? Or there's always two sides to the story. But find the constructive one that can bind together first. And then you build, you 2 here, 3 there, 4 here, and then you already have a sort of commonality there. I mean, we're not talking about just one big thing. I think it's much more difficult, yeah? But start small here, and then by peer example, right? Okay, if Malaysia and Indonesia can do it, why can't Cambodia and Thailand, for example? Okay. I mean, that way you counter the negative, yeah? So that way, that's my suggestion.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Apichai. Would any of the other panelists like to add on?
Just 1 minute point of view. Well, this mahasiswa from Unpad, Pajajaran. It's very interesting because you see the recent example of Sumut Flotilla, for example. It's a people-to-people cooperation, and it makes wonders. If you follow the official line, the government lines, it's going to be very difficult. But whenever there is a cause, people congregate from various groups and just go for the cause. So I think I mentioned it earlier on various examples that we can be together, get together as the ASEAN community. And I must commend FCPI for having this ASEAN for People's Conference. How I wish we can have FCPI, Malaysia, Cambodia, Philippines, and the rest, or other names. So this is the way forward, that the young people, just normal people, we congregate and we just want to discuss, we just want to share our ideas. And at the end of the conference, we will come up with 1 or 2 or 3 resolutions and we move forward. Yeah. So I think this is a very important strategy in the way forward. Yeah. That we work together as people-to-people relationship. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Dato. Yes. Mr. Rapindra,
I
go
just want to add something on the ASEAN identity, because if we take ASEAN as a family, so we have brother and sister. In each brother and sister, we find strength and weakness. So it's the same for our nation in ASEAN, now 11 soon, you're right? We should focus on what is the good in every countries, in every sector, cultural, culinary, sports, governmental policies, and share the best practice all together. So that's, I think, one a very important message for the ASEAN identity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ravindra. I think we can have 2 more questions. Yes, the lady in the red and the gentleman in the red. Yes.
Hello, thank you for the panelist. My name is Nana, and I actually work for the University of Melbourne, looking for engagement between Australia and ASEAN, or Southeast Asia. But for today, it's only ASEAN question. My question is, I think, sort of touching on to Mr. Ravindra's point before around EU versus ASEAN. Do the panelists think that will ASEAN ever be as integrated as EU in terms of economically, politically, culturally, but also in terms of tourism and workers, etc.? And the second question is that if you do think or you don't think, what are the challenges to achieving that currently? Thank you.
Thank you so much. So,
So thanks for your question, and it's very interesting because this is a question I was asking few months ago with my colleague Santiago Uno during a very high-level conference in the south of France.
But it doesn't feel like south of France. It feels like you're in
Middle East.
Southeast Asia or in Middle East.
40 degrees.
It was 40 degrees.
40 degrees.
Well, we were at Aix-en-Provence, and it's the summer Davos, and we actually discussed about the question. So, but please go ahead.
Exactly, but please feel free to support my
Okay.
answer. So on the first question about EU-ASEAN and if there is some best practices and how to compare EU and ASEAN, I think that ASEAN, for me, when as I mentioned in my answers before, is that I'm really happy to share best practice from ASEAN to EU, because the cohesion, fragmentation of EU, and recently you can see with the rise of nationalism during the different election, and also, of course, they have also now with the Ukraine-Russian conflict, it has been damaged a lot about the EU branding, and I would say branding and I would say all the countries among themselves. So I think that EU has a lot to learn from ASEAN. And so to answer to your second questions, what are the strengths and weakness of each entities or institutions? So I think that ASEAN, I found that the strengths is in diversity. We found unity, which is in Europe. In diversity, we found weakness. Let me just clarify, because I'm sure that you will also reinforce this answer. But immigration in Europe, it's a tough topic. So I'm happy because I'm not in Europe, so I can discuss a bit with you about Europe immigration, and it's a lot of, I think, recently in different nationalist elective programs, immigrations has been one of the key priority, and especially I come from France, so I think the rise of extremism is really important also in France. So this is the first one is European EU is not federate as ASEAN. Although they have 27 countries and we have only 11 countries. One of the strengths of ASEAN, I think, is efficiency and cohesion. Efficiency in the process, and when I was in south of France, I mentioned especially one example of the EU to implement the AI Policy Act, which takes 3 years to complete. I think it's 2,000 pages reports. But where is the implementation? Nothing. But we as ASEAN, for example, with the ASEAN Digital Master Plan 2025, many key action has been implemented in the digital infrastructure, digital policies, and so on and so on. So that is one of my answer to your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Pak Senior.
I think you touch on all the points that I was supposed to make answering our colleagues at University of Pajajaran and University of Melbourne. But our generations, including me, when we think about these subjects, there's barriers, there's, I think, policies, implementations issues. But if you talk about bottom up, in particular, is about the young Gen Z and millennials and the upcoming Gen Alpha, you would see a lot of similarity and very much things in common for all 11 ASEAN countries. For instance, you mentioned unity in diversity. The brand identity, it doesn't really have to attach, to batik, but for instance, like something that is more unique when it comes to tourism, for instance, that when you land in ASEAN countries, you feel that you're being welcome. You feel that is great hospitality. Unlike when you arrive in other countries, I would not mention which countries, that you feel like you're not welcome. But in all 11 ASEAN countries, when you land, Pa Andy, it treats with a smile. So maybe that's the cultural identity. And that unity in diversity is similar to our core national value of gotong royong, of basically, let's collaborate, working together in languages in ASEAN countries, pasti ada Pak ya, gotong royong. Kalau di Malaysia mufakat namanya. Nah ini, this is something that, very relatable, in particular to young generations. You can talk about cuisine. Each countries have great food, and when you arrive in Thailand, it's delicious and very delicious food. In Cambodia too. So maybe in the cuisine that I would say durian. Malaysia has probably some of the best durian with but then you would compete with Thailand. Thailand said that, oh no, it's our durian. And then we can decide this is ASEAN durian, and maybe in Penang, in Balik Pulau Pak ya, or in Bangkok, but we have the land. You can boast any, but the most potentials for durian is Indonesia, because we love durian all seasons, right? So, and hospitality, I touch about tourism. Malaysia did very well. Now 40 million, rivaling to Thailand of about 40 million too. But that hasn't been felt across the ASEAN. Cambodia, Indonesia, the Philippines, we all have nice beaches. But we haven't seen that ASEAN identity. So it's a unique narratives. And I think we, and I would ask for this call to actions for the young generations here. Come up with something that is inclusive, very grassroots, and sustainable to offer in terms of ASEAN identity. Maybe it's something about music, but please don't choose dangdut, because dangdut is loved by most of 280 million Indonesians, And you have to learn from the Indonesian founding fathers. When it picked Bahasa Indonesia, it is only spoken by less than 10% of the country's populations. They pick Bahasa Melayu. So far the vision. If they pick Bahasa Jawa, I cannot talk to Tan Sri, you know. Kabare, very, very difficult. But our founding father have shown that, okay, let's pick something in common that may not be representative of the majority of the population. So I think with the ASEAN, now that we have FPCI, so I have to thank Pak Dino. We could have this ASEAN youth, for instance, volunteer corps that volunteer to share best practices among the ASEAN nations. So maybe the goal is to have not just ASEAN as an acronym, but something you feel when you represent the region, and something you feel when visitors arrive in any ASEAN countries that unite everybody.
Thank you so much, Pak Sandiaga. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, just on the question of the difference between ASEAN and EU, I think from the beginning, because I followed this as a reporter, when they designed the ASEAN Charter, the ASEAN Community, they said we're not going to follow the EU path. We're going to be different, right? EU, for example, they have the requirements to join. The 15 East and Central European countries, when they join, they have to improve their political system, democracy, and freedom, and then they were allowed to join. In ASEAN, there's no such requirement. This is why we have all these different kind of regimes in ASEAN. But we agreed on that. I mean, that's, and then also the principle of non-interference and decision by consensus. So the result of that is ASEAN is slow in moving, but we are moving. But it's slow. I mean, as a journalist, I get frustrated, right? Because in 2015, we announced ASEAN Community, nothing happened. 2025, ASEAN Community 25, nothing happened. Now 2045, I doubt it is going to happen, but it is evolving. And this is what I think that the idea of ASEAN is that we move at the level that everybody is comfortable with. Initially, there were only 5 ASEAN members. It was easier to move forward. But when we become 710 and now 11, and requires everybody to agree to be on board, that takes time, because just takes one member to say no, and we're not going to move. But I think there is this Southeast Asian culture of deliberation and consensus, and we are getting there. But we just have to be patient, and because it's going to be a slow process. But I'm sure we are getting there eventually.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Andy. Maybe one quick closing remarks as well, Mr. Apichai.
Just to respond to the question, Dr. Surin Pitsawan, former Secretary, the late Dr. Surin, he is often asked when he was the Secretary General, would ASEAN, like the question, ever be like the EU? And his simple answer is, EU is our inspiration, but not our model. And I think Andy and others have, something like that. And in fact, some people even go as far as to say that if ASEAN does become any time at like following EU, next day they will break apart. Okay, so do you want that? That will be the end of ASEAN in a way, right? And so I think we have to be careful. We are two different animals, creatures. Okay, there are certain things we can learn from EU. And so forth, and that's certainly EU can also learn from ASEAN. Okay, at least we beat EU in one score. They already have Brexit. We haven't had any ASEAN thing.
Thank you, Mr. Apichai. I totally agree that it's not necessarily always an apple-to-apple comparison. So I think, unfortunately, that is the last of our Q&A session. Of course, all good things must come to an end. But before we do close up, I'd like to invite each of our panelists to give a very short 30-second close-up or closing remark, maybe starting with Pak Sandiaga.
I'll close with another pantun. Anak muda senangnya kumpul-kumpul. ASEAN Youth, I love you full.
Thank you so much, Pak. Datuk,
Yeah,
another pantun?
I'll try. I just hafal one pantun only. But it's okay. I begin with a metaphor, yeah, in the earlier part of my intervention. So let me conclude like this. Yeah. ASEAN, again, is our house. The roof of sustainability protects us. The rooms of respect celebrate our diversity. The walls of care and compassion keep us standing. The garden of innovation and prosperity grows our future. And the foundation of trust holds it all together. But this house is not just a building. It is an enlightened house, a Madani house, a house rooted in values that give soul to our unity, purpose to our diversity, and meaning to our cooperation. If we nurture this house, ASEAN will not only be a regional organization, it will be a true home where every citizen belongs, where every youth has hope, and where the world sees a shining example of harmony in diversity. Because ASEAN is not just geography, ASEAN is not just politics. ASEAN is our house, ASEAN is the Madani house. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Datuk. Mr. Ravindra, go ahead.
So I will be less poetic, I think, than my colleague. But very interestingly, he mentioned some keywords. So I will give 3 keywords that you all reflect on. The first one is resilience. Resilience because we need to face multiple challenges coming from climate to social injustice, to the rise of conflicts, to the rise of AI, and so on and so on. For first keyword is resilience. The second one is diversity. Diversity, as I mentioned before, could be a strength, a very good strength, within our family, within our community, within our neighbors. What I mentioned before is that if you do a DNA test, we don't have 100% blood about Indonesian or Malaysian. If we look at our ancestor with a DNA test, we have all some heritage from our neighbors. So please respect each other in diversity. And finally, the last one is harmony. Because within harmony, we cannot make peace with ourselves. And if we make peace with ourselves, we make peace with your neighbor, and we make peace with the nation, and we make peace with the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ravindra. So resilience, diversity, and harmony. Thank you so much. Mr. Apichai, go ahead.
I might have actually just a practical suggestion to the organizers. Yeah, how many people we have at this conference? 1,000 more?
3,000 more.
3,000.
3,000
okay.
more.
Okay, we start from that. At least they are exposed for 2 days intensive, what do you call it? Brainwashing or whatever you want to call it on ASEAN. Okay, then this is the test. How long is that going to last in the minds of these 3,000 people? So we need to continuously feed them. Yeah, you want to brainwash really fully, then you have to continuously. So maybe I don't know what the organizers are planning, but let these 3,000 people the germ or the initial seed to propagate. Yeah, try to find ways to continuously mentor or and to tutor or whatever. I'm happy to tutor. Do you do another one next year? I'll come. And so that kind of thing. Yeah, it has to be continuous. Yeah, to ingrain it. In other words, to how to put ASEAN into your DNA. Okay. Yeah. So if that's becoming possible, then I think we will have much to be proud of. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Apichai. Andy, go ahead.
Thank you. I never took a blood test, but my nephew did. And they trace our ancestors to the northern Philippines. So I have some Philippine blood in me. Just on the closing remarks, 2 points. One is to pick up on Abichai's point. We need, everybody here, I assume, are ASEAN believers, great ASEAN believers. But out there are a lot of ASEAN skeptics. They don't believe in ASEAN. They say ASEAN is not relevant. So our task is to change that. It's a long struggle because they say ASEAN does not touch me. I don't see any benefit, but we believe it has benefits. So we have to convince our colleagues, our neighbors, our friends, ASEAN is important, and that way this ASEAN community and ASEAN identity can be formed. Second point, I think we need an ASEAN champion or ASEAN champions and heroes. These are the people who are actually going to be the driving force. It doesn't have to be government official. Maybe it should not be a government official. Someone from the private sector, from the CSO, who are championing the ASEAN cause. Because I don't see that at the moment, but I think we have that, and people can look up to and say, "Oh, this is this person is championing, and I believe in that person." We can actually get more people to move and actually, believe in ASEAN actually, and then help to build this identity in the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pa Andy. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our session. We've reflected a lot this past hour, and it is clear that transforming the ASEAN identity to something relatable for everyone requires inclusive narratives and finding those similarities and making it into tangible programs for everyone. And also, of course, a strong commitment to reaching every corner of our diverse community. And now I would like to invite the FPCI committee to present our speakers with a token of appreciation. And I'd like to invite our panelists to remain on stage for a group photo session.
Thank you so much. We invite panelists to go down to easiest to photograph.